Hello. Hey, this is a great opportunity to go over the new update from Cornell University. We have implemented the 6.56 into your program already. So what we'd like to do, as we've talked, is we've done a recording with Cornell University with Mike Van Amberg, and that's going to be available to you. We would suggest that you watch that one first, and then we're going to go through the implementation of 6.56 in NDS. And so today we have Jacob Copeland, and he actually did his research on isoacids at Ohio State University during his degrees. And Kurt Kotance will go over some of the implementation of this. So take it away, Jacob.
Jacob, you need to unmute.
There we go. Now we're going. All right. Well, thank you guys all for watching this. And as David mentioned, this is part two of a series that is kind of introducing the new model of the branch chain fatty acids 6.56. So you'll gain a lot by watching that first and then come into this. So the goal of this new update was to better predict bacterial growth in the rumen by adjusting the branch chain amino acids and branch chain volatile fatty acid supply to rumen cellulitic bacteria. So when you first open up your NDS, and if you have updated your version, you'll see down here 6.55, which is the previous version, and which you're probably on now, and then it'll go to the 6.56. So by default, it will start off in the old one that you were on. So you're going to have to click on to this 5.6 to get the new one started. So let's jump into this screen. And also I will mention that if you go into your updates, there is a detailed description of the update on paper, as long as a white paper that will, if you want to read it, you also go through there as well as watching this video side by side. So as I mentioned, this update has to do with branch chain amino acids and branch chain volatile fatty acids. So the really important screens that you'll go to are your amino acids. And if you are on, this is the old 6.55, the screen that you will see is this. And there's no way, when you click on it, this is your branch chain amino acids. But when you go to your 6.56, and if you click on this, it'll bring you up to another screen for your branch chain amino acid balance. So your branch chain amino acids, for your cellulitic bacteria, they cannot use branch chain amino acids directly. They must use branch chain, or we'll just commonly refer to these as isoacids. So your branch chain amino acid balance, we use leucine, isoleucine valine. Your bacteria requirements here. In this new model, you'll see your rumen available branch chain amino acid supply. This has to do with everything that is included in the diet as you have it balanced. And if you add isoacids externally, this is what it's saying you need to increase this balance. Now I'm going to jump back because it all has to do with rumen bacterial growth and rumen function. If you go over to your rumen function tab, I'm going to kind of jump back and forth between the models so that you can see the difference. In your current edition of NDS, this is what this screen will show. your bacterial growth based on your energy supply and on nitrogen. However, going into the new 6.56, this screen will change, and you now have the addition of branched chain amino acids. So,
Jacob, can I
yeah.
just add that one of the scary things that people might notice is the drop in ME and MP predicted milk. And this is due to the addition or the calculation of the lack of branched chain amino acids for the fiber digesters. So you're no longer, you're actually more accurately predicting the amount of energy derived from fiber digestion. And unfortunately, it's a loss if you're short of isoacids.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Let me jump back to the 5.5. So you see we gained a couple pounds of milk. So we're at 84. Your limiting requirement is energy here. However, watch these numbers. When we go back to 5.6, you're losing about 2 pounds of milk due to your limiting factor is now the branched chain amino acids. Before it was energy, and now you're reducing about 75 grams per day based off this branched chain amino acid. Now, a big part of that is for fiber digestion. This model, the bacteria branched chain amino acids are then turned into branched chain fatty acids, and those are used very specifically by the cellulitic bacteria. So you're losing fiber digestion. This one shows 2.3%, about 100 and almost 180 grams per day of NDF. So this is changing your ME and MP. Anything you want to add right there on that fiber digestion, Kurt? That's kind of your...
No, this is where understanding Mike's description of what becomes limiting to both the non-fiber bacteria and the fiber degrading bacteria. And recall in Mike's video, he talks that the growth process and replication of the non-fiber bacteria, the sugar and starch digesters, they consume free nitrogen, peptides, and amino acids much more quickly than the fiber digesters, possibly to the detriment of the fiber digesters lacking sufficient nitrogen for optimal fiber digestion. And what's happening is because of possibly insufficient rumen nitrogen or an overpopulation, shouldn't say overpopulation, but the population of non-fiber bugs consuming the rumen available nitrogen to the detriment of fiber digesters.
So one thing we should talk about too is the fact that we have had kind of experience, or we've been looking at the beta versions of 5.6 for quite a while, and the immediate response is, hey, I just lost 2 pounds of milk in the cows, but on paper you did. But as we've defined and looked at 5.6 versus 5.5, I'm gaining more confidence with the predictions and looking at that. So that's important for us to understand, and that's something that Cornell has talked about, trying to predict the repeatability. So that's important.
Yeah. And I know this is like this ration's, these numbers are like exact. even me, I've put some of these numbers in and I've changed it to 5.6, and my MP prediction comes back to a better number than it was before based off of that number. So,
Hey, Jacob,
yeah.
do you have, so in Mike's video, he talks about the amount of rumen degradable true protein relative to the either kilos or pounds of fermentable carbohydrate. Can you bring that up on your center square there? I think you might have to add it to your output. But Mike talks about no, the other, where your ME predicted milk is. We'll add that line.
Oh, on here.
Yeah.
I don't know, is that on here? I don't think.
So
Yeah, the urea CP grams
there it is.
right there. Now click that off. And so Kurt, talk about that number
Yeah.
right there.
So right in the under the ME MP predicted milk, you'll see 101 grams of rumen degradable true protein per, in this case, pounds of fermentable carbohydrate. And one of the benchmark thumb rule for the time being values is to have at least 90 grams of rumen degradable true protein relative to fermentable carb in pounds, or 200 grams per kilo of fermentable carb. The other metric users may want to keep in mind is the rumen ammonia value. So if we go to diet evaluation, Jacob, yeah, bring up the standard screen there. And then down at the bottom center, ammonia, relative to requirement. In this diet, we're feeding 155%. Mike Van Amberg was recommending something between 130 and 150, 160 has been to date, that's one of the values we've tried to keep between to provide enough rumen available nitrogen for the fiber bugs. And now with this branch chain 656 model, we can more accurately determine if isoacids are lacking. Because at 155, most nutritionists would think, oh, I've got plenty of rumen available nitrogen. But as we see in this model, there's enough nitrogen, but there's not enough of the specific branch chain isoacids for the fiber bugs. So that's something to keep an eye on.
And the other three descriptive values that he talked about, Kurt, are in your rumen fermentability. You want to go over those?
Of fiber?
Diet evaluation. And then down in the rumen fermentability area, the true protein.
Our familiar portfolio section. So rumen fermentability, percent of dry matter as NDF fermentable. If you're over 14, that's great. However, you're going to want to make sure you have sufficient isoacids to provide those fiber bugs to make that 14% rumen fermentable actually happen on farm. Because right now, this is just a lab generated number based on your NDFD values and the KP in the model. So what the 656 is trying to better balance between the non-fiber bacterial fermenter needs and the fiber fermenter needs. The metric that Mike spoke of in the first video, I believe it was 60% of the nitrogen needs are required by the non-fiber bugs. So that really puts a drain on the nitrogen supply available for the fiber digesters.
And the other value was the true protein. So NDS did that quite a while ago. Instead of just having total protein fermentability down there,
Yeah.
they have a true protein number, and he talked about being above 9. This diet's at 9.33. So we are above 9. Total carbohydrates, he talked about being over 40. And this diet's at 41.9, 42. Looks good there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we still have a reduction. So interesting.
Yeah, and that's due to the balance. It's a fairly heavy. It's not. I shouldn't say heavy, but right now it looks like the non-fiber bugs are being taking up all that available nitrogen source and branch chain, leaving the bugs at a deficiency.
Well, yeah, and you made the point, as we drive up, these starch, these NFC bacteria, it's going to drive, you're going to need more requirements for the cellulitic bacteria versus, those starch digesters. And also being a good point is when we go into those, when we're looking at those 3 branch chains and the isoacid deficiencies, I think typically we're feeding a lot of corn. Mike had mentioned this as well. But your leucine, you're usually never going to be deficient in over here. It's over here where you start having the problems.
Right. So, back in the day, we used to overfeed protein, or so we're told now, right? 17, 18% protein diets. And we kind of retrospectively wonder if this is what we were chasing. Because if you want to increase your iso acids or iso branch chain amino acids, you can certainly feed more rumen-degradable protein. However, be cautious in not getting into the trap, because if you try to do that, say for instance with soybean meal, your total dietary protein is going to inch up towards 17 or 18, and all of a sudden you're overfeeding an expensive product. You're not making greatest efficient use of nitrogen. So this becomes a balancing act of, yeah, you can make up for deficient branch chain amino acids, but be careful the true cost of doing that through different ingredients.
So as one final step, the product is described in there. ISO firm, we can add that in and show what NDS has been able to do with the description of the product. So it's important that we use the rumen feed library one with the Zinpro behind it. So the green R. And once that is brought into the diet, you will see there's an I right there that if you hover over it, it will explain to you, since we're in pounds, it's going to describe the pounds of isofirm that would be needed to meet the deficiencies that are there.
Yep. And
so,
this number, well, that 0.062 pounds there is going to correlate to this number right here.
oh yeah.
So if you plug that in,
But yeah, so let's do that. 0.062
on a dry matter basis.
Oh, yeah.
magic.
But
Got your
that,
MP.
it's not gonna,
It's not going to
change
show you
anything.
the
It's not gonna-
correction. That's
yeah,
the diet before. Yes.
correct.
But we did see our MP milk go back. It returned to where it was.
Yeah.
ME milk, excuse me.
Well, and that's the,
And then
you know,
here, there you go.
and I think Kurt and I, when we were looking at this in 5.6 and then increasing protein sources, it was really difficult to hit the to correct that deficiency in the branch chain from fiber digestion. It was just we were, using a lot of protein to try to achieve that. So this is one iteration or possibility.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else need to be said, guys?
I think that's, I mean, the basics. I mean, I don't know. I will, being a new update, this is kind of new for everybody. So, if there's any specific questions, or I'm sure there will be little tweaks that we do here and there to,
And I think that the discussion that we had as a group was to leave the default on 6.55. And then within any ration, you can go up, as Jacob was showing you, to the info tab and run it in 6.56. But it's like any of these updates, it takes us a while to wrap our heads around what we're really seeing, what the cows are seeing, and what
Yeah.
the model's doing, describing the cows. So
Yeah.
please, be able to toggle back and forth, get to your comfort level. We will have the video with Mike
yeah. And
with some slides. We'll have this video, and we'll have a white paper from Mike and Andrew and Cornell, and then we'll have a paper going through this process, linked, also written by the Rumen group, as far as getting 6.56 into NDS, and that will be four pieces of information you'll be able to have and look at your disposal.
And just a reminder, because I just made this mistake, when you're on 6.55, any ration you open will be in 6.55. Or if you're toggle on 6.56 here, when you open up a diet, it will be on 6.56. Otherwise, you need to toggle back and forth on this info tab. So.
All right. Well, hey, I hope we got everything covered. Again, toggle back and forth and figure out where your comfort level is, and keep going back and forth. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.